Hi, this is Trevor Conquergood. Welcome to this week's RNK Software Club's video for the week. And the topic for this week is about a pattern fill, which is basically made by using the tool at the bottom of the workspace that's called standard fill. So I've simply selected a piece of artwork and I'm going to click on standard fill and the software will fill that in. And I'm just going to use the shape tool to go in and interact with the stitch direction and entry points and exit points. And so this is how you would normally use your standard fill. As you know, you can come to the sort of properties area and change the pattern from pattern 1 to pattern 2 and so on and so on. And there are a series of patterns that all appear to be kind of the same sort of flat texture, but if you really study them and look closely at them, they actually have different textures. And so probably one of the easiest ways or the best ways to learn about all these patterns would be to make a stitch out where you created, one small area, maybe create the same, square or triangle or a little apple or something and fill it with the different fills and then kind of note beside them which ones they are. Of course, you could take that further and for each fill pattern that you choose, you could adjust the stitch length and the density. And so notice how different, for example, pattern 3 looks compared with pattern 1. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about how you can understand more about the different patterns and how they are created. And so what we're going to learn about today is actually found under the Tools drop-down menu where it says Standard Pattern. And so just go ahead and click on where it says Standard Pattern and a window appears. And the window that appears will show you what your different patterns look like in a very kind of graphical way. And so first of all, notice that I've got a couple that I've made, 001 and 002. I've got one down here that was for fringe. This was me, creating my own patterns. The ones that come with the software are colored in gold: brick wall, corn row 1, corn row 2, pattern 1, pattern 2. Well, so now if I select on pattern 1, I can see what makes up that pattern. And so a fill pattern is created by, as this thread steps across the shape and then back again, by offsetting the needle point. So if you didn't have the offsets, you would end up with, whatever stitch length you had, whether it be 3 millimeters, 3 millimeters, 3 millimeters, you'd end up with a row of needle points at 3 millimeters. And so to create a pattern, we can have, for example, 4 offsets with each one being a different value of the original. So 25% for the first time, then 50, then 75, and back to 0 again. And so that's what this kind of depicts here is there's your sort of first offset, and then next one is 25%, the next one's 50, 75, and back to 0, and it creates kind of a small diagonal pattern. And so with this tool, you have the ability to go in and interact with the pattern and then save it. Now, you're not able to change the patterns that come with the software, but you can make changes to them and then save them with your own. So notice how I can do that totally mathematically or visually make the changes. So for example, if you want to have a 5th offset, just click here and now there'll be 5 rows. And so it's kind of reset everything 0, 0, 0, 0. But notice how I can come in here and I can type in the exact amounts that I want. So if you want them to be kind of similar to the before, they were 25 and they were 50 and they were 75 and this one was 0. And so if they want to do the next one different, maybe try 20 or something, or 15. And what you'll find is that if I just hit sort of like the tab button, it'll allow me to see all this. Or what I can do is another way of adjusting it. So this is see how the first 5 rows are a little bit darker? So those are your 5 offsets. And so for example, if you wanted to see where that last offset would look good, you can click and drag to move it. And so you could do, another one along that same row, or, kind of like create some sort of a different kind of pattern like this, where they go back and forth a little bit and create, a different type of appearance. And so if you really liked what I'd created, these 5 offsets at 66, 93, 75, 0, and 81, you could click on the save button and give that a name, right? So I'll just call it today. And so I say, okay. And now we have a new fill called today. And if you close this and select your triangle and look in your pattern editor, there's a new fill that's called today. And so you can create your own, and see how my pattern that I made created kind of like it looked like in the pattern editor, sort of like stripes, but instead of being all one needle penetration, they're varied a little bit. And I wanted to show you also another way of viewing the stitches. So right now I have 3D turned on. If I turn off 3D, but I turn on the stitch points, then let's see, they are turned on actually, so that is off, and then that is them on. And so when the stitch points are turned on, you can really see exactly how those patterns appear within your design. So coming back to the pattern editor, tools, standard pattern, if you select your today pattern that you created, and then you want to go ahead and make some changes to it, maybe make it look less blended, and then I click save and close. Now it doesn't immediately update here, but if I was to, for example, even just click apply, that will refresh the results and update the end result. And so I think one of the interesting things is just to try the different patterns. So for example, pattern 1 we looked at was 25, 50, 75, and 100, and it made a small kind of diagonal line like that. But if you study the other ones, you'll see how they change. And then it helps you to choose, I guess, which one you like, or might give you some ideas on how to create your own. So for example, there's pattern 1. And now pattern 2, and notice how pattern 2 creates kind of almost a bit of a chevron look to it. And then you have pattern 3, different again. Pattern 4, different again. Look at all the different, that's 10 different offsets there. So if you select this fill and change it to pattern 4 and click apply, that's the end result of pattern 4. So I thought I would show you guys the cool tool in the tools drop down menu, where you can not only learn about the built-in standard patterns, but you can use the tool to create your own. And if you make one and you don't like it, you're like, why did I ever make that pattern called today? You can select it and then click on the, I guess it looks like an eraser, but that will be the delete. And so today will be permanently deleted. And do you wish to go ahead? And so you say yes, and you no longer have that one in your list. And so, like I said, the ones that you can add and or edit and delete are the ones that are kind of colored in blue or teal, and the golden ones are the ones that were, I guess, built in and came with the software. And you can open them up and see what their settings are, and then make small adjustments to them, and then save them with their own new names and make kind of cool variations of all your patterns. And so that was an interesting topic for this week. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Until next time, bye for now.